Okay, imagine you've been invited to a very exclusive dinner. 12 courses, a private island. A chef who basically ascended beyond the concept of cooking into some kind of culinary deity. The food costs more per person than most people's rent. Sounds awful already, right? Now imagine by the third course, you actually don't know if you're gonna make it home alive. This is the menu. And somehow that premise works for one of the most gripping, darkly hilarious, and flat out uncomfortable dining experiences I've ever watched from the safety of my own couch. Hey, welcome back to Mildly Overreacting, and today we'll be talking about The Menu, the 2022 film directed by Mark Maylord. I went into this movie because the concept looked bizarre and I generally had no idea where it was going to go. So here's the basic setup without spoiling too much. A group of very wealthy, very status-obsessed guests travel to a remote island restaurant called Hawthorne to eat a 12-course tasting menu, prepared by Chef Slowick, played by Ralph Fiennes. Each guest has a different reason for being there. A food critic, a tech bro, a movie star, various people who take themselves way too seriously. And then there's Margaret, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, who wasn't originally supposed to be there, and who doesn't really fit the mold of the other guests. Chef Slowick has a very specific vision for the evening. That's all I really want to say about the plot, because if you go into it knowing too much, you lose the pleasure of watching it unravel in real time. Let's talk about what this film does really well. Starting with the tension, because the tension in the menu is doing something really specific that I don't think it's discussed enough. It's not the type of tension that hits you over the head with jump scares or loud music. It's quieter than that. It builds through these seemingly ordinary dinner conversations, where you slowly realize something is deeply fundamentally off. There's a moment early on where Chef Slowick addresses the guests, and everyone in the room laughs politely, and you can't quite tell if they're laughing because something was really funny, or because the social pressure in that room makes laughing feel like the safest option. That's the discomfort sitting underneath everything, even when nothing has technically gone wrong yet. The screenplay is doing a lot of work here. It understands that real dread often comes from things that are almost normal. A dish that's slightly too personal. A staff member who smiles just a beat too long. A host who seems perfectly pleasant until you realize he's got a very particular idea of how the night's gonna end. The film keeps you slightly off balance the entire time. And that's a hard trick to pull off for 2 hours without losing the audience. Okay, let's talk about the cinematography for a second, because this movie looks stunning. The way the food is shot is almost trance-like. There's this precision in every frame, every dish, every planted element that matches the control Slowick has over the space. And then the island itself, the fog, the water, the cold light, it all contributes to this feeling of total isolation. They're cut off. There's nowhere to go. The visual language of this film earns that isolation before the story even makes it explicit. Now let's talk about Ralph Fiennes. I need to take a moment because Ralph in this film is doing something exceptional. Chef Slowick is the type of character who could easily tip into over-the-top antagonist territory. The intimidating genius with a god complex who monologues about his art. In lesser hands, that becomes tiresome fast. Fiennes does something much more unsettling. He plays Slowick with this total eerie calm. There's no ranting, there's no theatrical cruelty, just the measured, almost gentle authority that makes every single thing he says land twice as hard. The way he moves to the kitchen, the way he pauses before speaking, the way he delivers what are objectively devastating things to say to people with the same tone that you would use to explain wine pairings. It's the restraint that gets you. You keep waiting for him to crack, some explosion of emotion, and he almost never gives that to you. Which means when anything does shift in his performance, even slightly, the whole room changes. It's the most controlled piece of acting I've seen in a while, and it makes the character generally magnetic in the worst possible way. Anya Taylor-Joy as Margaret is the necessary counterweight to all of that, and she's brilliant in a completely different way. When Fiennes is still water, Taylor-Joy is moving, reactive, sharp, alive. Margaret is like the audience's way into the world. She doesn't really belong there, and she knows she doesn't belong there. And her read on what's happening is usually the clearest in the room, precisely because she hasn't bought into the same mythology as everybody else. There's a fantastic dynamic that develops between Margaret and Slowick that I don't really want to spoil, but the push and pull between them carries so much of this film's emotional weight. The power balance shifts in ways you don't always see coming. She makes Margaret feel grounded, credible, and generally resourceful. The chemistry and tension between the two of them, and honestly between every character in the room, is part of why the movie holds together so well. There aren't people just standing around waiting to be part of the plot. They feel like a specific ecosystem with specific hierarchies, and watching those hierarchies get dismantled over the course of dinner is just amazing to watch. Let's be real about what this movie's actually doing underneath the surface, because it earns its satire without ever feeling like it's lecturing you. The menu is absolutely roasting a very specific type of person. The wealthy food obsessed who treat a restaurant reservation like a cultural achievement. People who discuss 12-course tasting menus the way other people discuss philosophy. The guests at Hawthorne are almost all variations of that archetype, and the film finds ways to make each of them ridiculous without turning them into a caricature. What makes the satire land is that it feels plausible. These are recognizable people. The food critic who's been to so many restaurants he stopped tasting anything. The tech bros who treat the experience as content. The celebrity who needs to be recognized in every room he enters. The movie doesn't need to exaggerate much. It just needs to put these people into the right situation and let the absurdity of their behavior reveal itself naturally. There's something deeply comical about the way that guests keep trying to engage with the evening as if it's a normal tasting menu experience, even with the things becoming incredibly, visibly not fine. They've paid too much and bought too deeply into the mythology to admit that something might be wrong. That specific denial is very funny, but also very bleak. I want to talk about the escalating intensity because that's really the engine of the whole thing. The film is structured around courses, and each new course comes with a new revelation or a new escalation. And the pace of the escalation is generally well calibrated. It never rushes. It never lets you get too comfortable with any given level of chaos before introducing the next one. By the time you hit the latter parts of the film, things have gotten so far from where they started that you almost can't remember what normal felt like. And throughout all of it, the humor never disappears. The movie is funny, darkly uncomfortable funny in a way that makes you feel slightly bad for laughing, which is the best kind of funny. A lot of that comes from the guests' continued insistence on behaving like dinner guests, even though the circumstances have clearly escalated past dinner. Okay, the cheeseburger scene. I'm not going to tell you everything that happens in it, but at a certain point in this film, a cheeseburger becomes the single most emotionally resonant thing on the screen. And if that sentence doesn't want to make you watch this movie immediately, I don't know what else to say to you. It's one of the most satisfying payoff moments I've seen in a movie in years. It lands because the film has done the work to earn it. It's funny and it's meaningful and it says something real, not in a heavy-handed way, but in a way that the best movie moments do, where you feel it before you consciously understand it, and I love everything about it. Honestly, The Menu is one of those movies that feels rare because it does so many things at the same time. It's tense without sacrificing humor, it's funny without puncturing the dread, the satire is pointed but the characters still feel like real people, it's stylish without being cold. That balance is very hard. Most films that try to operate in multiple tones like this end up not working out very well. It helps that everyone involved seems to understand exactly what the film they're trying to make is. This film was an easy 4.5 out of 5 stars for me.
Is fire.
This is the type of film that I immediately wanted to talk about after watching it. If you haven't seen it and you've actually made it this far into the review, please go watch it and let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't seen it, let me know what movie you think I should talk about next. Thanks for watching Mildly Overreacting. If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe, leave a like, all the things. I'll be back with more reviews with somebody who takes movies way too seriously, and other things not serious enough. See you next time.